Hey everybody, this is Sherry, and today for the card I'm using two Gerda Stiener stamp sets. The first one being called Moody Unicorn, and I use it for my sentiment. And the second set is called Party Animals, and it's, I think, one of her newest. I'm not sure if she came out with two or if this was the last release and I just missed it somehow. But I love it, and I decided that this little guy here, he wanted to be a flamingo, and I believe I saw this somewhere, but I can't remember. I went ahead and Googled ostriches, and a bunch of different cards and pictures came up, so I wish I could give credit to whoever came up with the original idea, but honestly, I can't find it. I'm so sorry. But so I decided to color him, just like a flamingo. He wants to stand out. He wants to be an individual. That's what he's going to work on. So we're going ahead and I'm coloring him up. And when I do the ostriches, you'll see that for ostriches, their heads are lighter than their body. So when I go to color them up, I make sure that I color their head a little bit lighter, not a lot, but just a little bit lighter than their body. And you'll be able to see that really well when I color the ostrich on the far right. Here I'm just coloring in the beak. Now, I'm sure he can change his flower or his feathers, but he can't change his beak. So he's still got his ostrich beak, and I'm coloring him up. And just it was tough using 3 colors there. I probably could have gotten away with 2, but I wanted to go ahead and try 3. And the thing is, I had already done this card once and was doing the legs on all of the colored in flamingos, and the orange marker just plopped out a big old blob of orange, and I tried everything. I tried whiteout, I tried my gel pen. It was not going to have any of it. So I ended up not being able to use that. And my daughter's like, hey, you can cut some of those out. I was like, oh, cool. That's right, because it really only ruined 1. So I don't know what I was thinking, but you'll probably see those on another card here soon. And this is one of the things where if it could go wrong, it does, because this time I didn't lose any footage, so I was really happy about that. But I do, when I'm making the envelope, realize that I had decorated the envelope upside down. So, my philosophy is that just means that it's a special envelope. It's a special one. So whoever gets it will know they're really special. That was why I did it that way. Don't I wish? But here I am, I'm coloring him in. And I put my darker marker around his neck because we want there'd be a shadow there. And so you want to make sure that you get that a little darker. And I always do my lightest, then my darkest, then my middle, and then my lightest again. And if I have to go over that again, then I would jump straight back to my darkest, then my middle, and my lightest again. And you'll notice when I color him in that the feathers next to his neck, I go ahead and make them darker, because anything that's darker typically is shown behind something. It appears to be behind something. So I colored those darker so that you could tell that his feathers were behind his head. And this one will be one that you'll really be able to tell, because on this one, when I color him, I use E41, 43, and 44 for his head, and then I use E43, 44, and 47 for his body. So his body's just a little darker than his head, because according to Google, that's how they are. So I'm sticking with it. And so I'm just putting in my mid-tone color here. I didn't do anything fancy because this was a very narrow image. I mean, it's a nice tall image, it's just very narrow, and I struggled to color it. And so I'm just putting a little more on the face, and we're going to call his his body done and finish in his feathers here. And again, this is the one you'll really be able to see because the color, the darker color is significant. And you can see that, you know, his feathers now look like they're coming out from behind him because his neck is putting a shadow on them. I absolutely love Gerda Stiener stamps, guys. They are so much fun. Now here I'm just going to put a little ground or base for them to stand on. It's nothing fancy. I use W0, 1, or actually W2, then W1, and then 0, and then I go over everything with my colorless blender. And normally I start with putting down a base coat, but for the shadow I don't do that. And just trying to blend it out there a little bit so there's not really any harsh lines. And here's where I come in with my colorless blender. And this card is essentially just about done. We need a sentiment though. And before we put the sentiment on, we're going to go back and use the black glaze pen that I got from the Not Too Shabby shop and dot up his little eyes there so he looks all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I'm going to get out my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and use the sentiment, seriously? From the other stamp set of hers. And, you know, it reminds me of the time that my kids said, Mom, are you going to wear those out? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to wear them out. And I get to the doctor's office and realize that I had on my pajamas. And my kids were like, seriously, Mom? Really? Yes, what you're going to wear? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wear that. I had forgotten to change out of my pajamas, people. I looked like a nut. There was an old couple sitting in there pointing and staring, and I was like, oh, I felt so stupid. Here we go. I'm going to put down my ATD tape on the back of this, and I am going down in layers 1/4 inch in increments. So this floral paper here is 4 by 5 1/4, and I seriously struggle, guys. I don't know why I have such a hard time with this, but it just gives me a fit every time. But I left it in because I figure, hey, I'm hopefully not the only one, and somebody will message below and say, Sherry, you're not, we're in there with you. And I'll be like, thank God. I feel like I'm the only one that's so goofy they can't even put the daggum card base on. And I can't, it's like my eyes are cockeyed. I don't know what's going on with me. But I'm going ahead and putting down my ATG. Now, I could use my art glitter glue, but to be honest, I accidentally somehow pulled the top off of the pen. And so now every time I go to get it, that stupid pen stabs me. I had to order another one. And here's this is 3.75 or 3 1/4 by 5 for this layer. And here is the front of our card base. And now we're going to go in and we're going to work on a sentiment on the inside. And because I didn't have a stamp that said what I wanted it to, I decided that I would go ahead and just write my own. Now I start with doing this in pencil because I had practiced and practiced, and I was worried that I would get on my actual card and mess up. So it worked out better to do it in pencil, and then I go back over it with my Copic Multiliner 0.1. And at the end of this, I will just erase all the pencil lines, erase anything that you could see under the ink that I might have not been exactly perfect on. And I get the sentiment that I want that says, be who you want to be. You know, folks, that's all anybody wants, is for you to be who you genuinely are. You know, be who you are and be happy. That's, you know, that's what's important. Be who you are and be happy. And so there I'm just erasing it and getting all the pencil out of there, and there's my card. All right, now we're going to do the envelope. This is the second envelope because the first one I did, I wasn't paying attention and I didn't stamp it. Well, I had the bottom of it stamped, but not the top of the ostrich's head. And here's when I realized, ta-da, that I had put it upside down. And I was like, no way. I'm not doing this again. I'm just going to go with it. And so here I'm using my Memento marker to put in just a little box that will be where the recipient's address goes in. Nothing fancy, just to draw it in there to try to bring attention to it. Thanks for visiting me today, guys, and happy crafting. Bye.